That's one of the big changes I've developed in the last 5 years. I've trusted my gut more in everything. And I think that has made a significant difference to the business and also to myself.
No unicorns, no brands, just hard-working people who built their business from the ground up, sharing their experience so others can learn. Presented by Larissa Feeney from Kinor, this is Real Business Conversations.
Hello, my name is Larissa Feeney. I am CEO and founder at Kinor Finance and Business Services. Today we have the fascinating story of a second generation family business which is still growing after nearly 50 years. We'll be chatting about the dynamics of a family business, tips they have learned about dealing with customers and staff which has helped their success, and some insights into staff turnover and other common issues. So let's get straight in with a very warm welcome to the Managing Director of Global Home Improvements, Barry Shevlin.
Thank you very much, Larissa, for having me on.
Barry, can you maybe start by telling us how Global Home Improvements began?
Wow, okay, so how long do you have? So essentially, you're right, it's a family business. My father started it 44 years ago. We're actually 45 years next year, 2025. Wow. So I remember he worked with a window company, and then I came home from school. So I was in primary school. I'm not going to give too much away there. And I came home from school and I lived in a box bedroom. And I came home and there was a big desk sitting in my bedroom. And that was the start of Global Windows.
So you lost your bedroom?
Well, no, I had to sleep in the bedroom, but I lost whatever space I had. And that was his office during the day when I went to school. And he started it then 44 years ago. And essentially, he built manufacturing. So we're where we are today in Glasnevin is our manufacturing plant. And that was there probably we were around the corner 44 years ago. And that's where we are still to this day, manufacturing windows and doors and various other different products as well.
Okay, that's amazing. 44 years ago. And how many's on the team today?
I think we're roughly around 50, I think. So sometimes it goes either side of it, but 50 is our current staff numbers, yeah. So great team. Great team.
And so that grew from your father, and he managed it for the first 20 or so years, is that right? And then you took over?
I joined the company in 99. I vowed never to join the family business. I left and said, I'm not a chance. And I just was totally, no, don't want to do it. But I went working then for a developer called Liam Carroll of Zoe Developments. So he built a lot of all the apartment building in the 90s. And I absolutely loved that. But I then just grew because I didn't have an engineering background or so forth, architectural, I couldn't go. I was getting a little bit bored with it. And then I was asked then to join. So I joined in 99, but my dad's remained in it right up to probably about 5 years ago. But obviously his role was diminished. I think I was managing director in probably 2012, I think. Can't remember exactly.
So did your dad at that time specifically ask you to come into the business? And you must have had reservations.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an urban myth at this stage. We think my mother was involved a little bit brokering the deal. So I said I didn't want to go in. He said, I was doing my own thing. So it's up for debate. Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose depending on who you ask.
Yeah, but look, it's definitely one of the best decisions I ever made. Working in a family business is very challenging because it's family. And as we all know, families, as much as we all love them, can be challenging as a family. But in a business, it's an entirely different set of, completely different. But I always can look back and say that I had the opportunity, and not everyone gets the opportunity to work beside their father and see exactly what they are outside of the home, and that to me is a privilege, and one that I'll always hold. And I learned from him as well.
I was just going to ask that question. Can you think of a couple of things that you did learn from him? Because, as you say, working with him is very different than growing up with him. Although you grew up effectively in the business, you were sleeping in the office. So what type of leadership style did he have, and how does that compare with your leadership style?
We probably have different leadership styles. We've often spoken about this, but essentially what I saw him and observed, even though he said I wasn't, his father, son, I wasn't open to feedback, if I want to call it that. But ultimately, I was watching and observing. But also, what I saw was his absolute love for the customer. I really, really, really just that just soaked into my DNA. I just saw how customer-centric he was with everything. That then just went down into staff as well, and how he treated staff. So that was the culture, that it was a customer-centric culture, but also that it was a staff-centric culture. And it wasn't like staff as regards, pizzas on Friday. It was just basic human connection and respect. And I think that's ultimately what I learned off him.
And that's typical, isn't it, of a long-standing business, putting the customer and their people at the centre of everything they do. And that has obviously stood to you, because a large proportion of your customers would be returning customers. Yeah,
a huge amount. Like I think we've transformed and improved about 25,000 customers' homes, even 30,000. And I think, yes, they keep on coming back. And, the model then we built on was that homeowners are asking us, would you not do other products like kitchens, bathrooms and so forth? So we added on to the business, and, that's our model. But definitely, if you're customer centric, if you want to provide the best customer service out there, you have to, if you don't look after your staff or treat them well, they're not going to do that part of it for you. And I think the two have to go together. Very important.
And we hear a lot about, putting the customer first, and the customer is always right. And can you give us some examples of, like, what does great customer service mean to you and to your team?
The first thing about customer service that is just so important, I think it's really, really simple, but yet it's so hard sometimes to implement. But I think it depends on the attitude of companies as well. But what we tell to all our staff is, so if someone comes into our company, we induct them as regards what we require. But it's very, very simple. Call a customer back within a really prompt time, update them if there's issues, and put your hand up if you've effed up, you made a mess of it, okay? And I think simply, if they are followed, them 3 cornerstones, as we call it, if they are followed, that's customer service. That's really, really good customer service. And it's so simple concept, but yet as individuals and companies, we all make them mistakes.
I love that, because you're absolutely right. It is making sure that we do the simple things, the basic things right, because we can get caught up in the newest bit of software or the newest CRM system or, whatever. But actually, if we can't pick up the phone, or we can't respond to our customers or respond adequately to our customers, then, we have no chance of anything else working.
No, and I think I'm very much of a simple mindset. And if someone is explaining something to me and I don't understand it, I will say, well, if I don't understand it, our customers are not going to understand it, our staff are not going to understand it, and I will be of average intelligence. So a simplicity is so hard to do, but I think it's so important. And I think as businesses, as people, individuals, our lives have got so complicated, and it's an overload, I think, presently on a lot of people. But number one, you always have to understand that our customers are getting overloaded in everything. As people, individuals, we're all busy. There's 2 people working in households. There's so much information coming. So I think as businesses, we have to understand that our customers really are getting overloaded, and we have to communicate concisely and promptly to them, and not enough phone calls. There's not enough.
Do you know what? I'm smiling because we had this issue just this week in Kenore, where this conversation came up about, the lack of phone calls. It's amazing, isn't it, how much we've moved to email, and how we do, maybe this is my age, but we do need to get back to picking up the phone, to creating those connections, because emails are great and, online is great, but we miss the connection.
We do. And I think some people do like to operate digitally and email and so forth. You have to have that channel open. But then there's a huge amount of people that just want to pick up the phone and say, what's the story with this? Or when am I getting that? Or the issue? And that should be really easy for them. There should not be all the hoops and loops and everything, and people, it should just be simple. And then, God, I rang them, they rang me straight back, or they sorted it out there and then. That's customer service. It's so simple,
So Barry, how do you get new customers? And I know you have a huge amount of returning customers, so that's a big element of it. But how do you market to your customers?
We market, like marketing is a big part of our company. It's like for every company, we've invested a huge amount of money and time into our brand. Like 44 years of branding, we've invested millions in it over that period of time. So obviously digital is a massive thing, social media, and we be on the radio. We're in the Irish Times. So we use all various different kind of modes, but ultimately we keep on trying. Our strongest revenue is our repeat business. So that to us is making sure we do everything right for the customer and just have a very, very high customer satisfaction rate. That's massive. That's so important to us, because word of mouth is so strong.
Do you measure that customer satisfaction rate at all? Do you have any way of measuring it, or do you just do it through word of mouth and reviews, that type of thing?
No, we measure it at 2 different stages, I think. So we measure it throughout. So I would be very much of like if you go out for a meal, the waiter someone comes up to you during your meal and says, is everything going okay with your meal? So I say to the team that we have to do the exact same thing. We need to find a problem very quickly if it's happening and be able to deal with it. So we would measure it that way, but we also do an NPS score. I don't know if you've heard of that. The Net Promoter.
That stands for Net Promoter Score, yeah.
Yeah, so we do that at the end of every installation, every customer experience. So that's done at the end of every customer experience, where they're asked that one question, and we then rank that then, and we would get a report through every week on what our NPS is. And I think currently it's 78 as far as I know.
Brilliant. And that's an amazing NPS.
It's very, very good. Our goal is it's up there with the best, but our goal is to get to 90. That's our goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah, because we're never happy, and I think as a business, if you say you're happy with everything, do you know what? We're great. We're doing brilliant. We don't need to change anything. Super. Good luck.
Yeah. No, I know. You always have to keep improving. Can I switch then from customers over to your team? Because you talked about customers being at the centre of everything you do and building a team in order to serve those customers. So there's about 50 on the team at the moment. Is there a leadership team or a management team, Barry?
There is, yeah.
And can you talk to us about how you recruit? Do you find it difficult at the moment to hire? I know there's a lot in the media at the moment about how we're in full employment and employers are finding it difficult. Are you experiencing that? We are. Now, to be honest, we're not recruiting. We don't recruit a lot often. Thankfully, we've a kind of a low turnover rate, but we did when out of COVID, we came out of COVID really, really busy our order book increased massively, and we had a lot of kind of like Polish and various different people working for us. They all went back after COVID, and the country seemed to empty out. So that was definitely our toughest time for recruitment. And I would echo everything else. It was really, really hard. But equally, it's a little bit. I think it is easier at the moment. We recruited recently there for a role, and we just found that the quality was a bit better. But you have to work harder at it to get it. Definitely than let's say 5 years ago, no question. But if you have a low turnover of staff, then you're obviously doing something really well there. An employee today can leave and go somewhere else and get another job relatively easily. So how do you maintain that morale? How do you keep motivation high? You must have a very good culture.
Yeah, I think there's always been a good culture. Like from day one, when I came into the company in '99, I just felt that it was a really nice place to work. And I looked forward to coming in. As I say to my team, I spend more time with Ollie Yee than I do with my kids and my good wife. So I have to really enjoy that to come in, so it's so important. And if I dread that, then there's something wrong. So, but ultimately, I think it's like the 80-20, the 80-20 rule where 80% of this, you should love or enjoy 80% of what you do in your role. And there's always going to be a 10-20% you could lose it if someone gave you the choice. So I kind of see it as a little bit like that, in that there's some companies, I hear people saying, right, we have to focus on our culture now. This year is our culture. And there's ideas thrown around. Well, let's get more pizzas on a Friday and we'll do this and we'll do that. That's great. But I think that's the 20%. But you have to be operating on the 80%, which is you have to be treating people with respect. You have to have an open door policy. You have to be just giving them feedback. You have to be literally just having a nice place to work and just respecting each other. And ultimately, that is the thing. If you don't do that and then you try to do the 20%, well, then the 20% won't work.
That's really great advice. That's really great advice. And none of your guys work remotely, do they?
I think we have one or two people that work remotely and it's fine. But the majority of people work in the office, yeah.
Yeah. And that works well for you.
It does. Now, we have got more flexible. Like I'm working from home today and I work from home probably 1 to 2 days a week. And I definitely found, and I would have been in the office before that all the time. But I think that's one of the good things of COVID. It is after giving flexible working to people, and it's after reducing the kind of the rigidity around it. And if we go in on a Friday, sometimes it can be, or some days some people work from home. So we do offer flexibility. Yeah, we do. You have to, I think.
Can I ask you, Barry, about yourself? Because you were in a very challenging position, starting to work in the family business and then transitioning to take over the family business from your father. And I know from speaking to clients over the years that can be really, really difficult. Navigating that change can be difficult both for the senior and for the person coming in. How did you guys work that out?
Yeah, that's a really difficult transition. And I suppose I was a pain in the ass to my dad. In other words, I was just like, I want this, I want to go this way, I want to go that way. So I had huge ambitions. We were very, very alike. And I think when you've got two people very, very alike, that's when issues can happen and clashing. So he wasn't the type of person that wanted to just retire and go out onto the golf course and just have just tour the world or whatever. He really enjoyed work as well, and he loved work and business. It's just in our DNA. But we navigated it, and we had tough moments, and it was tricky. But I think we always kind of made a rule that if we had a row or had some issue, that we'd never, and we do this with the kids as well, that we don't sleep on it. We'd always ring that night or whatever and say, look, okay, we had a crap day today. That didn't go well. I think I don't know who's wrong, but let's move on. Yeah, let's move on. And I think that's kind of key, but it's very difficult when you're in it, but I think that's key.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Did you sit down with your dad and say, okay, on this date, you're going to exit and I'm going to take over? Or was it like a general stepping back for him, or gradual stepping back for him? I think it was a gradual stepping back. And I suppose, we did agree about where I take over as managing director, and that happened. And then, part of that was he still wanted some role in the business, and we absolutely, we maintained that. But also, I wanted to, he's a brilliant business person and an amazing mind. So, massive asset to the company as well. So I wasn't just going to my turn now, you out. So I think that's really important, to use the experience and the knowledge and the advice. I think it's, I think as business owners, we all need to seek advice from others and their expertise, because it's so important. Because sometimes you can be blindsided, and it's really, really important to talk to others in every shape, And final question on this part: did you get anybody external in to help you navigate that time, or did you guys manage to do it yourselves?
We did, yeah. Like, we would be a big believer always in, if we have any sort of an issue or any sort of an area of getting the best advice, so we always are a big believer to go to someone good and get really good advice for X, Y, and Z. So we had a consultant that came in to manage it. we said, right, in fairness to my dad, he said, right, we want to do succession planning here. And he started doing that really early. He was thinking way down the line on it. And in fairness to him, great foresight in it. But at various different times, if we feel we have a weakness, we will always go to a third party to see, right, how can we do that better? And that's always the way.
That's great. That's great to hear, because, and I think that's the best way to do it, because otherwise it's very difficult. It's very difficult to navigate emotions. And, once emotions get involved in business, it's difficult. And with families, as you've already mentioned, it can be even more so. So no, thank you for that. I think everybody will benefit from hearing that. Can I turn then to yourself and your own development, Barry, because you've had to, pick up the business and take the business over from your dad and go on to grow the business and grow the team. And you've done that really well. How have you developed yourself, in that journey? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I suppose, that's an interesting question. There is books would have been, now I'm not a great reader, but I'm probably reading less books because life is just busy. Probably listen to more podcasts, to be honest with you. Yeah, the books would have played a big part of it. So I read a lot of business books, autobiographies especially. Autobiographies, I love getting insight into actual real people that they've done it and hearing all their stories, the good, the bad, and all the different things. I just found them exceptionally helpful. Then I've used mentors and coaches over the years. Then I've certain organizations, if I've joined them recently as well, and just to share with other entrepreneurs, all that type of stuff is really, really helpful,
I agree with you on the books. I'm a great reader of autobiographies. I listen to them rather than read them. But what I find is that I listen to people who have done it. If the author hasn't actually done it but telling me how to do it, I don't get it. So it's much better whenever you hear about somebody who's grown a business, who's gone through the challenges, and then you can take clear actions from those stories,
Absolutely. And I think, it's no disrespect to people out there. Sometimes people who weren't just great football managers who never played football, and so I definitely like to listen to real stories exactly like that. And I think it's just more I just find them interesting. I suppose often when you're in these positions of leadership, you get the imposter syndrome and you get all, it's just, God, it's this, what am I doing wrong? But when you hear someone else who you had up on a pedestal going, oh, and it's, you kind of go, okay, that's cool. So they've exactly the same issues as I have or whatever,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just selling different products or services. Yeah.
Exactly.
What about networking? Would you do a lot of networking?
No, hate it.
Okay.
It's not me. Yeah, I don't do it. No, I'll be honest with you. I am in one organisation, Entrepreneurs Organisation Ireland, but that's not a networking. We meet once a month and literally we share our issues, our problems and challenges and ideas on how to be better. But it's not networking, and there's no judgment or anything like that. So, but no, I'm not a networking person. I don't enjoy it at all.
And what about, and that's great to hear as well, by the way, because not everybody is a networking person. So it just goes to show you that you don't have to be in order to grow a business. No. What about difficulties, or did you have any difficulties as you were growing, as the team was growing, around delegation? Delegating those tasks, or were you naturally good at it, or did you have to learn how to do it?
I don't think I was naturally good at it, if I'm being honest. I think I learned how to do it, and I improved, and I'm still not amazing at it. I don't think I'm top of it, but I'm still improving. Like I constantly, like when I was younger, before he moved into my office, I would change my bedroom around. I changed my bed from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. But just the thought of that change used to drive, I used to love it, it was just a big change. But I constantly change things, and it's probably the team will probably say to you, it could be frustrating at times, possibly because, my God, he's after changing. But I'm constantly changing and I want to improve. So it can be frustrating, I'd say, when you're on the other end of it. But delegation, I think, is just some people are really, really good at it. I definitely... I am good at it, but I definitely learned over the years, and I've got a lot better. Even the last 2 years, I got really much better at it, much better.
I think there comes a time, doesn't there, that you have to become good at delegating. Otherwise, well, the company can't grow because you only have so much time. And that change that you mentioned, I think that's a good thing. I think I understand exactly what you mean. I think my team will probably say the same, that, you know, she's always changing things, but that change is important to move forward. Now, every change doesn't necessarily move you forward, but it's good to have a culture of change, I suppose, of being happy with change.
I think so. And, you know, and change is about trying things. So you have to try things. And of course, they're not going to work, all of them. And but you don't know until you try it. It's like you learn from your failures, that old, you know, and quite true reasoning is that you really have to try things. And so that's why we're changing all the time. But if something is not really broken, it's very successful part of your business, you probably won't change that too much. But it's normally the areas that are not working that you have to change, that I find. And then eventually go, okay, look what's after happening. And I even had a call with our marketing manager there just earlier, and we done a few changes, and it was amazing what we said, right now that we know that was working, because as a result of this, it's not working. So I think you have to have that mindset, you know, and yeah, it can be frustrating for people at times, but certain people just like to know exactly what way they're doing every day, and they're great. And I think you have to try and balance that as well, and kind of be able to judge that and not throw people upside down either as well. You have to be able to see certain people can adapt to it better than others.
That's a good point, because you have to, and I suppose in a team of 50, you have to have a good balance of those two types of people, you know, those who embrace change and want to see change, and those who, as you say, would prefer to know exactly what they're doing in the day or the week. And both are equally valuable to the company, and we need both types of people on the team.
Exactly. And I think if you are bringing in change, you know, you have to be, you know, aware of certain people, and you might have to talk to them a little bit more about the change than someone else, and kind of sit them down, go through it, and just explain it to them, the reasons, the reason why we're changing. And often when you do that, it's fine. But if you introduce something and then you don't inform people that are a little bit more sensitive about change, well, then that's when it goes wrong. And I think that's ultimately, you know, informing and keeping, just like we treat our staff like customers, keep them updated, you know, keep them informed, go back to them if they've got an issue. It's the same thing. So it's all about communication, really. It's at the end of the day.
It is, isn't it? And what do you do? Because you have a large team of 50 people. What does that look like in terms of communication to the team? Do you do it regularly on a formal basis, or is it quite informal?
It's a mixture of both. We don't, you know, I wouldn't be in favor of having meetings just for the sake of having meetings. I think we're all very, very busy, and but we do, of course, we have our regular meetings that are required. But we're trying to reduce our email because email is just becoming it's just, for me, I hate it. It's just so much of it. So we're kind of going into Teams now, which we're finding quite useful. So it's. Yeah, but essentially it's having conversations. So like we've one or two, we're planning for next year now for 2025. So we're probably having more Teams meetings a couple of times this week, just to we're just tossing it around, you know, and it needs that intensity. And then we might decide, right, we all know what we're doing, and we'll meet back in 3 weeks' time or whatever. So I think we'd be informal, but at the same time communicating. So it's yeah.
Yeah. And I think because you're in person, you know, whenever you work with a team face to face, that communication is a lot easier than if you were apart from them.
It is. And you know, like if you're grabbing a cup of coffee and you're passing by someone's door or their desk, you know, you can just, that 5-minute interaction there is so powerful. And I think that as a company, we're always trying to figure out which way is best and all that. So we don't have a template.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Let's look to the future then, Barry. So what are your plans for future growth, for, you know, future innovation within the company? Do you have any strategic plans?
We do. And like the future, we're always looking to the future. So the next 5 years is crucial for us. we do feel that we're in a very, very good position in the market with our brand, our level of service, and what we do for the homeowner. There's 2030, which is the deadline for the global emissions have to be reduced by a certain level. So that's in 2030, which is practically about five years away. So what we're doing, we've various different initiatives and products coming down the line that we're working on at the moment. It takes us a long time to launch a product because we just can't pick up a product and launch it. We have to, we guarantee most of our products for anywhere between 15 to 20 years, no charges within them time frame. So it's a massive investment and commitment. So we have to research a product and just ensure that it really, really stands to the test of time and won't fail us or our customers. So that's really important. So, but we have a focus on energy efficiency. It's going to be a massive part of our business going forward, because we do feel it's, especially Ireland, the world, everyone leaves things to the last minute. And we just feel in 2030, 2028 and onwards, there's going to be a huge amount of grants, pressure on homeowners, business owners to bring their homes up to upgrade their homes to a sustainable and energy efficient standard. And we feel we want to be right in the middle of that to make sure that we can help everyone out.
So you're looking 5 years out, which isn't, it's not unusual in many ways. A lot of businesses do look 5 years out, or they have, a 5-year plan as such. But yours is a lot more detailed from what you've said. You must have resources dedicated to that development and that innovations now.
We do. We've people internally looking at it and researching and creating propositions and products and how are we going to sell it and so forth. So absolutely. And it does take a lot of time to do it. It's not something we can't just pick something off the shelf and go with it. It takes us a long time to launch a product, because unfortunately, we're very attention to detail and how we do it. When there's a fixing that goes into your window, there is you would never see it. It would never affect you. You'd never see it. But we could spend 2 weeks talking about that fixing, and how it would affect, and will it last? And we want to see all the test reports, everything. So that's the attention to detail. We're an absolute nightmare to our suppliers because we break their hearts. So it's because we just want all the details. No one else asked for this. We want it. That's the way we do it. So we put a huge amount of effort into that. But what happens is when we put the effort in and get it right in the beginning, it normally, and it does, it works out afterwards,
So there must be a really strong culture of innovation within the company then, because you're always looking to do things better, as you said, but also you're looking quite far in the future. And you're you're using your knowledge and your skill and what's happening in the world to make an educated guess on where you think it's going to be in 5 years' time. But that's still a risk, isn't it? There's possible that something might happen and might go the other way. So you are investing in something that may not turn out the way you think it's going to turn out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all don't know what's around the corner. So and anything could happen. And the last 5 years have told us that, and I think, but you have to, okay, you do your analysis, you do whatever, but you also have to, I'm a firm believer in your gut. I'm a really firm believer. You also have to, have your stats, have your analysis, have all your reports. But essentially, you have to use your gut as well. And that's one of the big changes I've developed in the last 5 years. I've trusted my gut more in everything. And I think that has made a significant difference to the business and also to myself.
And what changed over the last 5 years that allowed you to trust your gut?
I think, Larissa, probably that COVID was a massive thing. I worked all during COVID. So when the shutters went down, essentially we rewrote the blueprint for the company in many respects. So we kind of went, right, when are we going to have 3-4 months where we don't have customers talking to us, where we have to operate the business? So let's use this 3 or 4 months to figure out what's wrong, how we can improve, where we can improve, and write a new blueprint. Now, we didn't turn the thing upside down, but we put significant things in. But it was kind of very much, we've nothing to lose. And I think just give it a go and go for it. And I think that it just makes a big difference when you do that. So I think definitely trusting your gut is important. Now, it can be wrong, of course, but the amount of times where I didn't do it, and so that means you have to increase your risk as well. So you have to increase your risk, getting back to your original question. So yeah, you have to increase your risk.
You do. You have to increase your risk. And it is the difference between a growth mindset and a scarcity mindset, because you need to have that growth mindset to be open to risk and to be comfortable with possible failure, because it comes with the territory. And if you want it to be a success and you're not willing to compromise, you're not willing to take the risk, then you're limiting the chance of that success in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's really, really interesting. Can I ask you what the most important lesson is that you've learned as a business owner over the years?
Oh, God.
Putting you on the spot now, Barry.
Yeah, you are. The most important, I think probably, I know it's so simple, but response to your staff and your customers. I think that is ultimately it.
So that communication thing again.
It is. I remember when I worked for Liam Carroll, he was an amazing man. He developed half of Dublin, and he's passed on now, unfortunately. But I remember I used to see him where he'd drive in to the site, big massive site, there'd be 200, 300 people working on it. And, we'd hand out the wages, but then people would come up and say, I have a query on my wage from this last week. I think I got missed overtime or missed this or whatever. He had about, I think, 500 people working for him, but he made it his business to make sure that every one of them wage inquiries was dealt with straight away. Absolutely straight away. No messing. Whatever you do, you just deal with them and get back to that person. Find out. Because that was the most important thing in that person's life at that point in time. And it's if you ignore that, then they won't do anything for you. So that was, and then my father had the same thing with customers and our staff. I know it's really simple, but getting back, that's one of the most important things I've learned in my time. And if you operate that everywhere, it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
That's great advice. Like he had empathy. He had empathy for his staff. He knew, as you say, that was the most important thing in their world, and he could fix it for them. And that was causing them a lot of anxiety, and he could take that away. And I was going to ask you as a final question, what is the one piece of advice that you'd give to business owners starting today?
Don't be worried about, like you see all these companies with their pizzas, and like we do little things, like we've had to get better at it, but our 80% of our time is just being human beings to each other and being nice and just communicating and just being normal. And I think if you do that with your staff, I think that is so important. And then if you have unhappy or pissed off staff, they're not going to do it with the customer. They're going to give the customer a bad experience. So I think, and even just for your own mindset, for your own health and for everyone's health, going into a positive atmosphere every day is good for you. And if you go into the toxic or negative, the other important bit of advice is if there is a toxic element in the business, I would definitely say, if you're feeling it in your gut that this person or this company or whoever you're dealing with is not helping the business in any way, I would say that would be actually advice to business owners. Deal with it very, very quickly.
Just cut it straight away. Deal with it. Have the difficult conversation. And that's really hard, actually. That's a really interesting point you raised. That's really hard. If they're a team member, if they're a customer, if they're an important customer, that can be a really difficult decision. But I do completely agree with you.
Yeah, and they could be, Larissa, they could be actually a top, and often they could be a top performer in your business. They could be really, really good at doing it. And it's a very, very difficult situation. But ultimately, and this is from experience, is that possibly you can sit on it too long, and the damage it does then ultimately is because no business, every business can survive without anybody, including me. You can't have any godlike creatures in your business. I really don't think so. No,
egos, there's no room for egos in business. No. That's really great advice. I think most business owners struggle with that. I think it's fair to say. I know I certainly do. It's a hard one. And
it's a difficult one, yeah.
It's a difficult one. And that's that saying, that cliche, hire slow and fire fast. Well, it's a cliche because it's true, isn't it?
It is. And it's, I think it is probably one of the biggest things we've all struggled. I definitely struggle with it. And it's such a tough area, and you're blinded by so many different things. I mean, look back, go, oh my God, why didn't I do it earlier? And I think that is fun. And that's links into the gut. Your gut was probably telling you, but then you had all this kind of science kind of, oh, the results are brilliant, but ultimately, no, so there's no easy answer to it, but I think any new business owner, I think, you'd have to say, be aware of that, because it can catch you.
It can. And just to bring you back to the point you made earlier, because you mentioned bringing in professionals to help you navigate the transition from one generation to the next. The same applies for this type of situation, to bring in objective advisors to tell you or to help you understand if you're thinking the right way and if you're going to make the right decision and how to make that decision is an important one.
100%. And always, when you bring in someone from the outside, they're a helicopter view. They're not involved in the business. They have no emotion in the business. So they're looking at the helicopter view, but they've seen this countless times everywhere else. So it is important to listen to outside people in that. And sometimes you don't want to listen to them, and you shut your mind. No, they're wrong. And you don't want to listen. But I think it is important to go, well, why are they telling me this? And then my gut is also niggling at me as well. So you kind of have to, I think a combination of outside with listening to your internal self as well and others, I think is really, you have to go at loads of different kind of things to come up with the decision. But definitely outside is really, really important in them situations. So important.
Yeah. No, fascinating. Barry, I could talk to you all day. Thank you very much for sharing all of that insight into the growth of global home improvements. We really appreciate your time, and I know that everybody will really enjoy listening to your story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larissa. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Real Business Conversations with Kinor. For more information on this episode, see the description area of this podcast or visit our website, kinor.com. Remember to press follow on your podcast player now so you get a brand new episode every single month. This podcast is produced by dustpod.io for Kinor Finance and Business Services.